to questions.
Absolutely. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. I know we're excited to be able to play in a Rose Bowl, obviously one of the best bowls in the country. And thank all the people at Capital One and the Rose Bowl committee for selecting us and putting on a great show. As far as practice, we got to practice versus Notre Dame a couple days before Christmas, and obviously came back and I've had 3 practices since. I think they're a really good offensive football team. I think obviously start up front. It's probably one of the best offensive lines from tackle to tackle that we've seen all year. They do a great job of communicating. They're all on the same page. They're physical. They do a really good job of protection. Obviously, Ian Book, the quarterback, I think kind of makes them tick. Really good football player, competitive. He's tough. I think he does a great job extending plays, but he keeps his eyes downfield. When you break down their explosive reel, a lot of their explosive plays come because he extends the play, moves out of the pocket, and obviously they do a really nice job in the scramble. And then from a running back standpoint, they play 3 guys. I think 23 is a really good player. They do a really good job in the run game with a lot of different personnel groupings. Play several different tight ends, create extra gaps in the C area. So schematically, they do a lot of different things that create a lot of problems. And I think they got some good players that they look at for some matchup issues, get them on some safeties and some linebackers. So obviously, we got our work cut out for us. They're a really good football team. We're excited to play them.
We will get things started with Mike Rodak.
Yeah, Pete, just talking about the tight ends there for Notre Dame, what sort of challenges do they pose? And just generally, what about the tight end position that has kind of given this defense trouble this year between Pitts and Wittermeyer and then Yeboah as well?
Yeah, I think, it's what obviously people are doing with them now. It used to be back in the day, the tight end was always in the C area, and, and there's certain plays and patterns that they ran out with, with them. But I think everybody's doing a really nice job of aligning these guys all over the place. They'll be at number 1 to the field, or they'll go 3 by 1, and he's the X receiver to the boundary. So they create some matchup problems, and that's what these guys do. They'll both be in the C area, whether it's 87, 89, or 24, and then they're going to flex out. They'll be the outside receivers. They'll be isolated. On the boundary corner, if you leave a corner over there, or if you worry about the size, then obviously you're going to try to match them up with a safety, and they look for the isolation route. So I think the multiplicity that people are doing with the tight ends, obviously from a coverage standpoint, they make you dictate what you're going to play. And so whether you're playing man or zone, they're going to know based on who's lined up on these guys, and that's why they do it. So they get the pre-snap picture and know the coverage you're in, and here's the 2-high beater, here's the man beater, and then at that point, if their guy ends up going up and being better than yours and making the play, it's predetermined for the quarterback what they're in, because there's only so many things that you could do once you put those guys in certain spots. But what I've been most impressed with these guys is how well they do block in the C area. They move them around, a lot of sliders with them. Obviously, they're a gap team as well. They do a good job in the kick out, and then they're still effective in the pass game. I'm not saying they're the same as what we saw in Pitts. I think he's a little different athlete. Obviously, he's got receiver speed. But, again, they do a really nice job formationally of moving these guys around, creating extra gaps in the run game, and then complement it with the pass game. So it's definitely going to be, obviously, we'll have our work cut out for us. I think, obviously, we got to change the picture for the quarterback. Got to have different ways to be able to bracket these guys and take them away and be able to give some guys some help.
We'll go to Dennis Dodd.
Yeah, Pete. I just asked Brent Venables this. There's a reason teams don't run the wishbone anymore, don't run the veer anymore. Is there ever going to be a magic bullet out there for coordinators to stop the spread or slow it down in any meaningful way?
I think what's unique now about the spread is most of this is triple option. It's the run-pass option, but now it's vertical. It used to be, hey, read and ride, and now we pitch. Well, he just caught it 7 yards behind the football. So you had time to rally guys, and he hadn't built the speed up and all that. So, what I think, obviously, offenses have gone to, they make you count for all 11. And obviously, once you start trying to take away matchups because there's a really good player that we need to double because we probably can't cover him one-on-one, well, then now you're down a guy. You haven't accounted for the quarterback. And I thought that's what Florida did a nice job of, too. They're going to get an empty. All right, what's the picture? What are they in? All right, now they're doubling so-and-so, 84 or 1. Well, now they have nobody for the quarterback. So then if you're not gaming the front and somebody doesn't win up front, well, you're a gap short. So I think that's the big thing. They make you cover the width of the field horizontally and vertically, and then they make you account for the quarterback in the run game, which is tough to do. There's only so many coverages you could play and be sound versus all those. So I think a lot of times now you got to win a one-on-one. I think that's what defense has come to, the way they're spreading it out and the options that they have. If you don't win your one-on-one, because somebody's going to be in a one-on-one, at best case scenario, because a lot of times you're down a guy, depending upon the quarterback run game. So if you can't win that one-on-one and you can't change the pitcher and obviously confuse a guy, dictate the read, knowing, hey, he's the read and ride player, we're going to show this, pop back out, influence the play like you used to do in triple, then you're going to struggle.
Okay, we'll go to Aaron Settles next.
Hey, your defense has 32 sacks, but 21 of them have come in the last 4 games. I wonder what you've noticed during that time period, and secondly, what sort of progress you've seen from Will Anderson from the start of the season to today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think Will's progressed very well, but I think that's just his makeup. That's who he is. You know, I think from day one when he came in here, he had a completely different mindset than any freshman that I've been around. He came in and attacked us, been in the playbook, is in the film rooms with Coach Sal all the time, but he practices that way. And I think that's the one thing to me where he's come on late, you know, because it's starting to build. You know, week in and week out, he's practiced the same, and it's all out. That's all he knows. That's how he plays. So I think all those reps are starting to accumulate, and he's getting to where he needs to be. But it's never been a lack of effort. I think he's feeling more comfortable, obviously, in the front, all right, in the call that we make. I think he's gotten better from a technique standpoint of when we're running games of selling the one-on-one because he is so good at that before we work the games. So I think a lot of it has come from a technique standpoint of his understanding of what we're asking him to do, right, from a pass rush standpoint. But I think, yeah, he's definitely progressed really well, super talented, but he's a great kid.
We'll go to John Zener with the Associated Press.
Yeah, Coach. How has your defense kind of evolved and improved during the season? And I know you're coming off a rough game statistically, but you're also facing some really good offenses in Florida, Ole Miss, those guys. So how's they improved?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the big thing for us, you know, in that stretch where I thought we were playing pretty good defenses, you know, I thought we attacked the line of scrimmage up front. You know, I thought we did a good job controlling blocks. I thought we were better in our gap integrity of fit and runs, you know, which has been an issue in the past. But I think the biggest thing, we tackled better. You know, I think early, you know, obviously in the year, you look at the Ole Miss game, you know, they had 250 yards after contact. You know, I mean, you can't play good football teams and not eliminate obviously the yards after contact. And then on top of that, whether it was that game or whether it was Florida, if you don't get off the field on third down versus good football teams and you give them another set of downs, it's going to be tough to stop these guys. They got too many weapons. They do too many good things offensively. So, you know, I thought in that stretch, I thought we tackled really well in space. I thought we dominated up front. I thought we controlled the pocket. We didn't let the quarterback get out. And then I thought we made contested plays on third down. And I thought the difference to me in Florida in that 5-week stretch that we had is when we had the opportunity to make a play, we did it. And what I mean by that, when the ball was on the ground in those other games, we scoop and scored it, or we fell on it. You know, we had 3 opportunities in the Florida game. It's right there. We don't get it. All right, it's 3rd and 17. You know, we're in an 8-drop zone. They get it. You know, so I think good teams, when you keep allowing them to be able to move the chains, when you had an opportunity to get off the field, right, you're going to kill yourself. And I think that's what happened in that game. We're 28% on third down. You can't give those guys with those weapons and the quarterback that they had and the scheme that they got more opportunities for explosive plays. So I thought that was the biggest difference when we play well. We eliminate the explosive plays, obviously, by being great communicators, but more importantly, not allowing them yards after contact. You know, we're going to give them some things by coverages that we call. There's a weakness and a strength to all of them, but we got to be able to minimize the gain. And I thought when we were playing good defense, we did that. You know, we tackle well in space. We were all on the same page on the back end. But when we had our opportunity to get the football and take it away, we did it. And I think that's something we're going to have to do in this game.
We'll go to Brett Hudson with Tuscaloosa News.
Yeah, Coach, to follow up on your point on tackling, that was something you talked about in the preseason of kind of replicating drills for them in practice to put them in positions to work on the tackles that they had missed last year. When did you think those really kind of took effect and started to produce the results that y'all were producing later on in the season from a tackling perspective?
You know, I think, obviously, you know, after the Ole Miss game, I think it was kind of a come to Jesus because we put a lot of things on tape and a lot of things that weren't good. But I think it was good from our kids' standpoint to where they could see it. What we try to do is we'd pair it. All right, boom, here's the missed tackle. All right, this was the situation. Here was the call. This is a 2-on-1 situation, which we call a vice tackle. And then right behind it, we start with starts every damn day, right, which is a tackling takeaway circuit, right, versus our offense. And we put that exact drill, right, in that exact same situation right behind it. And it's like, look, man, you either going to come out every day, right, and rely on your technique and get better and improve because we're putting you in this situation and it's going to carry over on Saturday, or you're going to think it's not important. You're going to BS it. Your pad level's not right. Your eyes aren't right. You don't run through contact. And now this is the result. But I think with a lot of young kids these days, until it happens to them, and then you can show them, hey, this is why we're doing it. Hey, here's the situation. I think some of them just don't get it, So I think obviously making them see it on tape. All right, here's the situation. This is the drill that we do for it. This is why. All right, and then going back over with them, here's the technique piece of it. Here's the approach. Here's the arrival. Here's the finish. But I think the more we can do that, the more we can show them. And I think it's big for kids to understand why you're doing things. And to me, if it doesn't show up on tape and it doesn't show up on the game, then you shouldn't be doing it. And I think that's one thing Coach Saban's done a really nice job of how we train tackling and we train turnovers in our takeaway circuit, right, that they show up on Saturdays. And it's video validation for those guys to be able to see it. So then now when we go out there and drill it and practice it on a daily basis, they got a little more pride in it because they know it's going to help the performance on Saturday.
We'll go to Michael Casagrande.
Yeah, Pete, what was that response like after that Ole Miss game? What was the feeling in that defensive room, and how do you think they responded overall to that moment of giving up as many yards and points as you did?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think anytime you give up that amount of points, we're that poor on third down, had the opportunity to make some plays and didn't. I mean, I think you reevaluate everything. But I think the first thing is your preparation for the game. How do you practice? How prepared were you for the game from a formation recognition standpoint, motion adjustments, FIB? My thing with these guys is, look, man, we're going to see different stuff in the game than we've prepared you for. They're going to game plan us. They're going to find a weakness. They're going to try to exploit it. We got to let our rules apply, and we got to be able to get it fixed on the sideline. But what we've shown you all week, and we've worked for all week, and you know what's coming, when that comes up in the game, we've got to be able to execute that. We've got to have that as a negative yardage play or no play. That can't be an explosive. Obviously, that extends the drive when we've done it all week and we've worked it all week. Because we're going to see enough stuff in the game where you haven't seen because they ain't put it on tape. And it was for us specifically based on what we do. So I thought that was the one thing coming out of that game. It's like, look, here's 70% of this game. This is exactly what we're prepared for. We knew it was coming. Here's the clips from practice. We worked it. All right, we didn't get it done. Why? And then I think we go back and look at it from a preparation standpoint, from a practice standpoint, right? Certain calls, were they too hard? Were there too many checks and addendums to it, right? To be able to simplify it and let the guys play. And then obviously at the point, right, you either can tackle or you can't. And we work it every day. So there's a little part of that want to, obviously of getting better and understand the significance of it. And if we're going to be a good defense, we got to be able to do that. So I think, I think it was a good thing. Obviously looking back on it, you don't want it to take a game like that, right? Because there's a good football team. You could have very easily lost that game, and we wouldn't be in the same situation we're in. So we try to get guys to understand, hey, that's what we're trying to teach you on a day-to-day basis so you don't put yourself in that situation. But I think for some kids, it takes that.
Okay, time for two more quick ones. We'll go to Tony Sakalas.
Pete, there was a moment during the SEC championship game where Saban kind of got into you on the sideline. What's it like kind of being in that? And, just kind of give us some insight, if you would, just on what that moment is like.
No, yeah, obviously, I think when you invest as much Coach Saban invests into this program and into football and things like that, when something doesn't get executed or doesn't go the way it is supposed to go, you're frustrated, like we all are. It's no different. So, that's part of it. I think that's in any job and any boss. Obviously, when you don't get the result that you're expecting, that you should get, obviously that's going to come down on whoever's responsible for that, as it should be. All right, so that ain't nothing new. Whether it was my dad growing up, my mom, that's expected, man. When something doesn't go as it should, right, then obviously there's consequences for it. So, I think it was just kind of a motivation speech at that time. Let's get them going. Let's roll.
Okay, we'll finish up with Stephen Smith.
Coach, just the IQ of Malachi Moore as a freshman. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've mentioned this before when we talked. I mean, I think, you know, the one positive to COVID, if there was the off season and the summer. You know, once you went to Zoom, you know, and they took away from an hour standpoint and get able to get these guys and slow the install down. You weren't getting ready for a practice, and now we're moving to the next practice, and we're game planning these guys to where you can really build a foundation and then start with the technical standpoint after that. So I thought for these young guys that, like you said, have a high football IQ, right, and are smart kids, I think that was huge. And I thought when he came into camp, his knowledge of the overall defense was not an incoming freshman. And then obviously he's athletic enough on the field to be able to make the plays he needs to. But more importantly, in this system, especially in the back end, if you know the foundation and know how it fits and know your responsibility, then you're a good enough athlete to play or you wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have signed you. So I think the big piece of that is the mental standpoint, like you said, which I do think, you know, the Zooms with Coach Scott and Coach Kelly and Coach Saban throughout the spring, throughout the summer, the walkthroughs, just the preparation of it, having another month prior to game one, you know, I think was big as well to that. So, yes, he's got a high football IQ. He loves football. He studies his butt off, and he's a good football player for us.
All right, Pete, thank you.